Disclaimer: this unpublished short story, The Sedan, a Clara St. George story, is part of a larger copyrighted collection of short stories featuring Clara St. George. All rights to the content remain with the author and is not authorized for reproduction or distribution.
The Sedan, a Clara St. George story. In the bustling city of Maplewood, retired detective Clara St. George, a 60-year-old African-American woman, set out on an important quest. She bought a vintage sedan, thinking it would enhance her daily drives. As she walked into the small, cluttered dealership, a weathered sign reading "Classic Cars" caught her eye. "I'm looking for something with character," she declared, taking in her surroundings. The salesman, a slender man with a friendly smile, waved toward the sedan. "This beauty has stories to tell, believe me," he said, polishing the hood carefully. Clara curiously asked, "What kind of stories?" The salesman leaned closer, lowering his voice. "Let's just say it has had its share of adventures and misadventures before it ended up here." Clara raised an eyebrow, intrigued. "Looks like it's ready for a new chapter." The salesman chuckled. "Well, it's not just a car, it's a storyteller. If it could write, I'd bet it'd get a book deal." He continued. Clara smirked, her interest growing. Little did she know, the journey ahead would reveal more than the car's background. It would uncover secrets that could reshape her life forever. When Clara purchased the sedan, she was unaware of its prior owner, a woman who had been missing for 2 years and had disappeared without a trace. Shortly after acquiring the vehicle, Clara began experiencing odd phenomena. The car would unexpectedly stall at a specific eerie location on a deserted road across from an old farmhouse, stirring anxiety within her. "You really have an aversion to this spot, don't you?" Clara muttered to the car. "There must be better places for you to stop," she joked, half expecting a reply. Moreover, the radio periodically crackled to life, emitting unsettling static and ominous messages. "I shouldn't be here. I never wanted this. No!" reverberated through the speakers, sending shivers down Clara's spine. Clara was captivated by the disturbing enigma surrounding her vehicle. "Looks like you do have a story to tell," she quipped to herself, convinced that she was the perfect detective for the task. To her, it was more than just a car. It concealed a mystery she felt compelled to uncover. Her background in law enforcement equipped her with the skills necessary to probe deeper and discover the truth. Resolved to solve this mystery, Clara visited her old police precinct. "They might think I'm back in the game for good," she whispered, laughing at the notion. The vintage building was steeped in history. Hours flew by as she scoured old case files, mumbling about the dust that surrounded her. Each folder hinted at events potentially relevant to her car. Clara approached this task systematically, scanning through reports and photographs in search of any clues that could illuminate the mystery. While researching, a chilling revelation emerged. Clara discovered that the last confirmed sighting of the missing woman occurred near the exact location where her car had stalled. "Well, isn't that just delightful?" Clara scoffed, shaking her head. This unsettling connection sent a jolt through her. Accepting that her car might be tied to a tragic event was difficult enough, but this was downright creepy. This newfound knowledge settled like a heavy burden on Clara's shoulders. "This isn't merely an adventure anymore, is it?" she murmured, feeling the unease grow with every journey to that same spot. Determined to advance the investigation, Clara resolved to learn more about the missing woman and her circumstances. Time to dig deeper, she decided. She picked up her phone, stating, "Nothing like a classic detective call." After interviewing the family of Sarah Evans, Clara learned significant details. "She was a brilliant light in our lives," Sarah's mother lamented, tears in her eyes. "We just want answers." Her father added, "She was headed downtown and never returned, only her car the next morning." Clara nodded, registering their words. "I promise I'll do everything possible to uncover the truth," Clara assured them. "This may help," her mother said to Clara while handing her an old GPS device and a pawnshop receipt. "This GPS belonged to Sarah, and this is a receipt we found in the car before we sold it to the car lot. We gave both to the detective in charge, but the next day he returned them to us, telling us that they were of no use to him. He never even bothered to process her car," her mother continued. "That detective was Harold Mills, a man Clara once worked with and never really liked. A now retired detective whom Clara had always thought of as lazy and unreliable." Next, Clara interviewed Sarah's ex-husband, Kyle Evans, but he had a solid alibi. Clara also interviewed Cassie, Sarah's friend who worked at the Quick Mart. Clara asked Cassie if Sarah was involved with anyone her parents didn't know about. Cassie expressed that she had a feeling Sarah might have been involved with Walter Freshgrow, owner of the Maplewood pawn shop, where Sarah would pawn pieces of jewelry whenever she found herself low on cash. Cassie explained that Sarah had told her Walter promised to give her a job redecorating his living room and kitchen. I then said to her, "So, Deborah finally decided to do something with that eyesore she calls a home?" She looked very confused, and then she asked me, "Deborah? Who is Deborah?" I replied, "Deborah is Walter's wife," which seemed to upset her. Suddenly she said, "I have to go," and then she left. Using the old GPS device, Clara traced Sarah's next step, the pawn shop. When she confronted Walter about Sarah, she presented the pawn shop receipt that Sarah's parents had found inside the car. Walter confessed that he did go on a date with Sarah, but after he revealed his marital status the next day, she stormed out in frustration. He suggested that Sarah was so upset that she used the money from the sale of her rings to leave town. Another interview with Sarah's parents dismissed the notion that Sarah would ever leave town without telling them. Soon after, a man named Harry Pettleton arrived at the police station to speak with Clara. He told her that he had overheard the conversation between Walter and Sarah, during which she stated that they could remain friends but that she could never date a married man, and that it was Walter who seemed upset. Clara obtained Sarah's phone records and text messages, uncovering a message from Walter to Sarah in which he expressed that he would be fine with just being friends and that he was sorry for blowing up at her. He also mentioned that he had told his wife he had hired someone for a decorating job, adding that his wife wanted to meet her to go over some plans while providing his address in that text message. Clara found that same address in Sarah's GPS device. She also suspected that Detective Mills didn't want to implicate Walter, his friend as it turned out, in Sarah's disappearance, which was probably why he gave the GPS device and receipt back to Sarah's mother. Now, with everything she needed, motive and opportunity, she felt the pieces of the puzzle coming together. "Time to call on my former skills," she said to herself, brimming with confidence and excitement. It turned out that Walter Freshgrow was also a registered sex offender with a criminal record for rape. Clara's meticulous sleuthing unveiled a series of significant clues that pointed directly to the murderer. "This is it," she murmured, a surge of adrenaline igniting her determination as she readied herself to confront Walter, the man hiding behind a facade. With her team backing her, Clara searched the property and found Sarah's remains in a root cellar. She surmised that Sarah was probably apprehensive about going inside the house since Walter's truck was the only vehicle in the driveway. Clara guessed that Walter's wife wasn't home, and that Walter killed Sarah while she was still inside the car by strangulation. He then dragged her lifeless body out and dumped it into his root cellar, a part of the property that his wife never ventured into. Then he drove her car to her parents' house in the middle of the night. Clara finished her investigation and felt proud of her work as a detective, knowing she had helped Sarah's family and Sarah herself, who was no longer haunting Clara's car. As she reflected on her career, Clara welcomed her retirement, but she was happy that she could bring justice for Sarah. The worries of past cases had faded, and she felt peaceful as she closed this chapter, ready to move on with her life, traveling in her old sedan, while remembering those she had helped. The end. I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you for reading. To read more adventures of Clara St. George, please join the author's Patreon at patreon.com/Mrs. Wright the Creator. You can also find other Clara St. George stories and books by the author on Amazon at amazon.com/author/Jerri Wright.